You know, they say everything's bigger in Texas. Not that I would know. But we do have some big quarterfinal matchups today. It's the first day of the playoffs in IEM Dallas 2025. On one side of the bracket, we had the Mongolz taking on Aurora, and yet another rematch between these two teams who can't help but find each other in the playoffs no matter what. And then, on the other side, yet another rematch, Falcons versus GamerLegion. GamerLegion playing down a man, Acor staying in for Sled, a Falcons team that has looked not nearly as confident in themselves as they had in their previous few events. It was a bloodbath on both sides, and on the other side of it, the Mongolz have gotten their revenge against Aurora in triumphant fashion, and GamerLegion came oh so close to taking out Falcons, but fell short at the last. The semifinals are set for tomorrow, so let's look back to today and get ready for those events. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure you show me by leaving a like, leaving a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, as well as with my goal of reaching 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you so much. And lastly, I need you guys to do me a solid. Earlier today, I uploaded a Pick'ems video featuring Vu. We went through the first stage of the major, we talked about it for like 30 minutes, and came away with the statistical best Pick'ems humanly possible. Go check out that video, top link in the description. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip.
Nice.
You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. Like I said in the intro, this is like the 500,000th matchup this year between the Mongolz and Aurora, and once again we are coming in with the exact same narratives. Can either of these goddamn teams figure it out and make a deep playoff run? Time and time and again, we've watched them torch through the groups and then fall short at the first hurdle in the playoffs. The question was, who is going to cave first? And today, unlike previously at PGL Astana, is going to be Aurora. The Mongolz roared back with a great victory 2-0. Dust 2 was a close-knit affair with the Mongolz walking into 13-11 victory, and then we had a statement game from them on Mirage. An 11-1 CT side half, Senzu leading the charge, finally giving us a big playoff performance when he has lagged so many times. Circling back to Mirage, it was by no means a fast start for the Mongolz though, as after winning the pistol round and going up with the first 3 rounds, Aurora would really turn around and lock things in. They would win 6 straight rounds, with Wakadia really leading the charge. Woxic would be having one of his worst performances of the tournament so far, but it was made up for by the great rifling of both Wakadia, Jota, as well as Antares. Meanwhile, for the Mongolz, they were dealing with pretty much all of their players struggling to get going outside of 910, who, despite all of the choking issues this team has faced, has been fabulously consistent in these playoff moments. He was by far the only reason they were getting any early impact. They managed to start making a rally on the second half with some good CT side rounds, but the problem was that Aurora found themselves heavily in the lead. It got to the point that Aurora were up 10-7, and going into this round, look at the buy from the Mongolz. They're buying every last thing they can. They are out of money, they have an MP9 stuck on Mazzino, not much else on the other players outside of rifles and some basic utility. So if Aurora can win here, not only do they get the 11th round, but they force Mongolz into a terrible situation where it's either save and force overtime or go for an even worse full buy to contest match point. So winning this round here, in effect, sets up Aurora to win the entire game. And things start going really well for them. They get the picks heading towards B, they manage to whittle it down to a 2v3, they start to take the site, and then Mazzino comes in to put everything to a stop. With a great play, he slips through the door smoke and manages to take out the bomb carrier in Jota, leaving Woxic and Major sequestered back in the tunnels, having to push to him to take that site control. And here, I think Major and Woxic play far too passive. They should be trying to play for the trade every single time. They have an AWP and an AK, Woxic can switch to another rifle. They should be pushing aggressively and not allowing Mazzino to play this round on his own terms. Instead, they creep up tunnels very slowly, deliberately taking far too much time, and Mazzino's allowed to take the initiative to isolate Woxic into a 1v1 angle where Major's not in a position to immediately trade. In effect, they give Mazzino 2 1v1s at close range with the MP9, which is highly advantageous, whereas if they decide to play more aggressive and proactive to retake the site control, they could have simply gone for the trade and the round win. If Mazzino gets the double spray down, you just tip your hat and move on. It was a moment of weakness when normally Aurora are aggressive at finishing out rounds like this. And in the following round, we really start to see the weaknesses of Major as a caller here, because Mongolz, they may have stolen that round, but their economy is still crippled. If you can somehow sneak this round away again as Aurora, you're in the same scenario with forcing Mongolz into a bad save or force scenario. But Major, instead of trying to switch up the call and play off his superior utility and weaponry, decides to go right back to the well and play towards B again. But the difference for the Mongolz, they have a double op up now. They got 9-10 in mid, Senzu in the back of B side, Techno working with him, and they managed to sufficiently dismantle this B hit in a way that Aurora simply couldn't compete with, because trying to force your way into B at this level of play is super difficult at the best of times, and especially not after you just failed to take B in the previous round. I wish that Major was a little bit more adaptable in these situations. It's perennially one of his weaknesses as a leader, and when it's working, it's great because Aurora will just run you down over and over, just hammer against nail. But when it falls short terribly because they don't have the tactics and the depth to try and work their way out in the mid round. Things remain close throughout the rest of the game. However, when it came down to these decisive site takes, especially in the last couple of rounds, Aurora really fell short and sometimes got a little unlucky. One time, Blitz got a triple kill going up A ramp after the bomb got planted for Cat. Other times, it was bad angle clearing, like leaving a player unchecked at car. Overall, Aurora weren't by any means bad in terms of firepower. It was the decision making, the strat calling, those micro decisions that really seemed to let them down. And the problem is that they lost momentum heading into Mirage. There's no Anubis in this set. Mongolz banned it out. So Aurora don't have a home map to play around. They really needed Dust 2 to build this positive momentum, and they couldn't find it. And going into Mirage, it was a slaughterhouse. And this is where we have to shift focus here and highlight Senzu, because he's obviously been the main culprit of Mongol's choking issues in playoffs past. But finally, he shows up here when they really need him. He goes for 19 kills and a 1.61 rating, 13 of them coming in the first half on the CT side, alongside Mazzino's insane 14 of his own. It really felt like Aurora got heavy firepower diffed here. Zontaros was one of the few pieces who really held up. Him and Wakadia were close to getting to double digits, but Jota, Woxic, Major, they couldn't get a damn thing done to find themselves around. And it doesn't matter how choky Mongolz can be, an 11-1 scoreline going into the T side of Mirage is basically unlosable unless your name is Team Liquid versus FaZe. So Mongolz absolutely overpowered them and straight out of the server, and Aurora are exiting IEM Dallas on a whimper after having one of their stronger group stages of the entire year. Once again, both these teams remain perennially up and down, so hard to gauge. Coming into this matchup, who knows who was going to win? Would the Mongolz choke? Would Aurora choke? Would they both just play terrible Counter-Strike? Kinda take your pick. Mongolz still showed some weaknesses at some points, especially on Dust 2, but overall, they made way better decisions in the most important moments, especially holding bomb sites, and that made the biggest difference. Their CT side play in this series was extraordinary, and if they can keep up this momentum going into tomorrow, this MOUZ matchup is certainly winnable. It always has been. The problem is, in the past, Mongolz would be like what MOUZ were last year and go missing. I hope most of all, we can see Senzu really shine on a big stage environment, and Mongolz can actually overcome this curse for once and for all, especially heading into the major. We'll just have to wait and see. With that, let's go ahead and move to our other quarterfinals matchups, the Falcons taking on GamerLegion. And this was a weird series because both of these teams are at kind of a weird crossroads. You have Falcons, who kind of stumbled throughout the group stage of IEM Dallas, despite being on such a meteoric run since acquiring m0NESY, and then you have GamerLegion, who, as we've covered before, are just in limbo. There's no major head for them, they have no Slend, we don't know what's happening next with the roster. They're just trying to end their season on a strong note, build up some VRS that they can take over into the next season and retool during the player break. But both these teams have also played each other in the playoffs recently, so there's a little bit of bad blood. And with Nico being as up and down as he has been at Dallas, I do think GamerLegion were more than capable of stealing the series away. I think we saw that borne out in the Counter-Strike. This was a 3-map affair, but all 3 maps were not particularly close for the teams that won. It was 13-8 on Ancient in the favor of Falcons, and then a disastrous nuke game from Nico left the Falcons vulnerable, allowing GamerLegion to storm back into the series 13-9, with PR leading the way, leading us to a climactic 3rd map on Inferno, and Nico decides to remind us that, yeah, he's still at least a little bit of him, going out and showing out with an immediate 4K on the pistol round that allowed them to start off strong and run GamerLegion out of the server to a 13-8 scoreline once again. Circling back, let's take it one at a time. The story of map 1 was just the fact that GamerLegion were not punching nearly as hard as what you would expect. Rez was by far and away their best piece, and alongside Towson, they were the only two players to get into double-digit frags. Meanwhile, PR, who so far has been as good as Rez in any given series, had probably his worst map of the event so far, stuck with 9 kills, 16 deaths, and a disastrous .53 rating. PR has been critical to this team's success, and considering that he was just a find to fill in the slot that Flam has left behind, Ash is just a miracle at finding these young talents, but that's neither here nor there. Without that PR impact, they simply couldn't compete with Falcons. Everyone on the Falcons was pretty much turning up and getting kills. You even had Kicksan leading the charge with total kills, going 16 and 10 himself, but everyone chipped in. Magisk actually didn't look terrible holding bomb sites on the CT side, a rarity to be sure, and it looked like Falcons might run them out of the server, especially as we head into Nuke. The problem is that Nico suddenly forgot how to play the map. I need to pull up the stats. Give me 1 second. And Nico himself even backed this up in the post-match interview, but he really has been struggling. Over his last handful of Nuke matches, he's failing to get above a 1.05 rating on the wins, and the losses have been disastrous. Like here, he goes 6 and 15 with a .64 rating. Earlier on in this event, playing against Heroic, 17 and 18, a .91 rating. His last matchup with Vitality was also pretty bad. Nico just seems a little bit out of place sometimes on the CT side, which is bizarre because, as we all know, he's arguably the best CT yard player in the history of the game. Any version of Counter-Strike, he is the #1 player you want on your Nuke CT sides, holding mini, playing flex around outside, and right now, his decision-making looks awful. And frankly, they wasted another great m0NESY game. m0NESY was going blow for blow with PR, who was outstanding for GamerLegion in his own right, but with m0NESY getting so much impact, ending with 23 kills, a 1.39 rating, this is just not good enough. I mean, Nico, dude, you were the $10 million man for Falcons. You were here to be as close to your prime as you can, and you can't be turning up and throwing up eggs like this in important games. For GamerLegion, like I said, what went really fantastically here was a combination of PR, ZTR, and Rez on the T side, just taking infinite space. PR seems way ahead of the curve for a young player in terms of his calmness and approach to these late situations. He is so good in the clutch for this team and leaves so much freedom for Rez and everyone else to work around his impact. But if he's just going to go blow for blow with someone like m0NESY, that's insane potential to see how he grows and develops as a player. Again, considering how rough Falcons have looked at this event, this seemed to be kind of the warning shot that as we head into Inferno, a map that GamerLegion have been quite good on, that maybe Falcons are going to find a way to fuck this up and not even get the chance to lose to Vitality tomorrow. Which is why it's incredible that despite all those issues we just talked about, in the very first round, Nico says, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do it my way, and runs down Banana as a CT and gets 3 kills through the bottom Banana smoke, an immediate statement shot across the bow that Falcons are not going to allow themselves to lose to GamerLegion with A-Core standing in on a stage environment. I mean, listen, not to boil it down to its simplest parts here, but this was just a very routine stomping by the Falcons. Not in terms of an overwhelming scoreline, because 13-8 is still winnable if you're GamerLegion, but Falcons won both pistol rounds, they converted the force buy thereafter, they won the majority of their gun rounds, and every single player on the team got an even spread of impact. Every player above double-digit kills, even Kicksan managed to get 10 and not die that much. Magisk was good anchoring on the CT side. Tessus had great moments of impact on the T side. m0NESY and Nico hit the shots they needed to. This was like the most utilitarian Falcons win you could possibly ask for. There were no need of heroics. There was no need of m0NESY having to drop 45. They calmly used the fact that they are the better, deeper roster than GamerLegion and just used that to their advantage. For GamerLegion, Rez and PR put up a game fight, but you're just fighting uphill at this point. While sure, you can make a fair argument that you really don't need the op as much on Inferno, especially on the T side, when it comes to holding the CT side, you absolutely feel that missing impact, especially because m0NESY is so good on the rifle that doesn't feel like you're dealing with an in any way nerfed Falcons. But A-Core is just not good enough. He's just a stand-in. He's not meant to be good enough. And without that, real fifth piece in the team, GamerLegion are just playing down a peg. They couldn't overwhelm Falcons like they did on Nuke because no one was going missing on the Falcons side. Which means, because Falcons fucked up in the group stage, The brackets are now lopsided, and tomorrow in the semifinals, we have Falcons taking on Vitality in a best of 3 instead of a best of 5. Let's go ahead and talk about predictions and then go ahead and get out of here. That first semifinal, Falcons versus Vitality. Do the Falcons have a chance? The way they played today, absolutely not. If they could somehow bring the form we've seen previously in grand finals, then yeah, sure, they have a shot. Vitality in their own right have seemed a little bit limp, a little less, leaving it in, a little less dominant than we've seen in previous tournaments. Maybe they're ready for the streak to end just to let that stress off before the major. I think that's definitely something we can see happen, but I think Falcons are going to have to fight uphill. Vitality are so good that even on a bad day, they're really hard to deal with. So my prediction for this first game is that it will go 3 games, but Vitality will win. I just don't see the way the Falcons play today being good enough against even an underpowered Vitality roster, but you never know. It could just be time for the streak to end. That's very possible. On the other side of the bracket, Mongolz versus Mongolz is going to be a banger. I think both of these teams, when they play to their strengths, can match up almost entirely evenly, and I think Mongolz are just shaky enough that they can let something through for Mongolz to actually take a big win. And frankly, I think it's time. I want to see Mongolz make a big Tier 1 Grand Finals and deliver on the promise we've been seeing all season. I think once again it'll go all 3 maps, Mongolz will come out on top, and unless they really just choke and disappear, I think Mongolz are going to find themselves struggling against an opponent they feel like they're comfortable enough to beat. I think Mongolz will win. I'm taking the risk. I'm locking it in. Mongolz 2-1, getting to the Grand Finals. You heard it here first. And if you check in sometime tomorrow, we can confer and see if I was entirely wrong. Who the hell knows? If you guys enjoy these kinds of videos, you can show me by leaving a like, leaving a comment down below, and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, as well as with helping me reach 10k subs by the end of the year. Thank you to Skins Monkey for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description. You go and trade your skins on their platform. Use my promo code and you get up to $5 on top of whatever trade you do, up to $100 in value. Thank you to Skins Monkey, and make sure you go show them some love and, help me get paid. Thank you. Also, thank you to my channel members, Justin, Jesse Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vegt, I'm Flashbang, Stormy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, and Sid Pro 12. If you want to become a channel member, you can just click the link in the description down below for $5 a month. You can see any video just like this, as well as a custom world, a community Discord. Make sure you follow me on Twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2. I'll see you guys next time in another video. Peace.